it was never intended to be a status thing or a statement piece. It all started, I had a Range Rover Classic. I thought it'd be great to put a rooftop tent on. And basically it didn't work as quickly as I wanted. I needed some extra hardware. And I got to thinking, I'm like, hey, I got the roof rack on the Porsche at home, so maybe I'll just drive it down to REI, pick up the tent, get it back home, get it off the car so nothing bad happened. And then I found out it was pretty rad. And it was actually a lot easier to set up the rooftop tent on a small car than it is to climb up all over the top of the Range Rover and try to set it up on there. So the rest is history, and we run a Porsche all over the countryside camping in it. Crushing the roof while I'm in the tent. No, never really is a concern of mine. I will say on the drive back from REI, I didn't tighten down the sliders that adjust where the tent is located on the actual rack. And I took a hard brake, it slammed forward, scared the hell out of me. Rolled into a local rack shop, and those guys were like, no, you can't have that on there. And long story short, got home, took some pictures of it, posted it to social media, and Yakima reached out to me and said, hey, listen, we think we like what you're doing, but it would be really great if you could swing by our home offices and we could check it out to make sure it's safe. And not long later, about maybe a week after that, I showed up at the corporate offices. Their fit team partnered up with me, got basically everything set up, tested the weight limits of the Porsche roof rack, determined that it was more than stable. In fact, it'll hold up to about 600 pounds while it's not moving. So we're not that big of people. Is it loud at highway speed? You know, it's I think the loudest between 35 and probably 60. After that, you get going quick enough and you don't really notice the whistle anymore. But it can get a little obnoxious. My wife, if we're just driving around town in it, she's been known to bring earplugs. My first car was a 1981 Datsun King Cab two-wheel drive pickup with completely rusted out floors. The only thing you could see was the cross members and the road going underneath you. And also had a muffler that was completely rotted out, so it sounded terrible. Things have changed a little bit. Has the IMS bearing been done? No, not in this car, or let me say this motor. The very first IMS bearing failed at around 60,000 miles and destroyed the motor. And fortunately the car was under an extended warranty, so Porsche put a Remand M97 motor in it, which is a pretty exciting thing. So I got a little extra horsepower, and no real concerns about the IMS bearings, with the exception of the fact it's not as serviceable as the M96 bearings. And that can be a little bit of a problem down the road. We'll address that when we get there. I haven't had any major problems with the car, with the exception of my expansion tank cracking. And that happened about a month and a half ago. Otherwise, just oil services, and that's pretty much it. Question I get a lot is it really reliable for long road trips? And absolutely, it's super comfortable. You know, if you don't want to have to hear the exhaust sound, it's got Porsche active exhaust on it, so just push a button, it quiets things down. We never do that. And again, all I'm doing is just putting gas in it and making sure the oil is topped off. And yes, it's very comfortable for long road trips. I just got back from about a probably 1,600 mile road trip. Most of it was freeway, but never get tired. Legs don't get tired. The seats are super comfortable. The ride is pretty cush. It's a great car for road tripping. If it wasn't about the money, I wouldn't buy a new 911. I would probably stick with this car. I love it. It does everything that I need. And to be honest, I think 997s moving forward, the cars have gotten more on the GT side of things. The 996 kind of Gen 2 is a really good balance for the things that I do in my life, and I absolutely love the way it looks. What do I do for a living? This question comes up almost as much as, are you sure your roof's not going to collapse? Long story short, I made some risky decisions early on in my life, and a few of them didn't work out. One of them did, and allowed me to kind of start leveraging time and money to just invest in the things that I'm passionate about. Do I ever want to change these wheels? If I could find a pair of white Steelies that would fit, I would probably do it. No, but seriously, I do keep my eyes out for wheels on the regular, primarily some hollow spoke turbo wheels. That would probably be my next upgrade. Or something that's a little bit more friendly in the winter. Gives me a little bit more rubber on there. That would be nice. So where I store everything in this car is kind of a unique situation. We treat it a little bit like we're backpacking. So I like to ultralight backpack, and we just kind of find the things that fit in the car to make it work. But the frunk is definitely a spot where a lot of things go. So the frunk has quite a bit of space in it. Easily 2 days of firewood. We usually throw a couple camp chairs in there. Tripod. Sometimes a 2.5 gallon jug of water goes in the frunk. As much as we can possibly fit in there. So what a lot of people don't realize about the 911s is they're 4-seaters. And the nice part about being a 4-seater 911 helps with your insurance rates, for one. But two, what Porsche has done is they've basically made it so you can fold down these rear seat backs and creates a whole new shelf. So the seat backs come down. We easily store a bag underneath each seat. A cooler usually goes behind the passenger seat, and then a 6-pack beer holder goes behind the driver's seat. Lucy K, the dog, she rests up on the shelf when both seats are down. And then the back shelf right underneath the window is where we usually throw like an extra pillow or blankets, any of the extra stuff that we usually have laying around. Yeah, I do try to take care of the car as best I possibly can. We drive it along a lot of dirt roads, gravel roads, so I am fairly concerned about rock chips. It does have expel coating on the rockers, the mirrors, the front bumper, the front hood. All over the car, really. Any place that rocks are going to happen. But I also make sure that it's got a couple good coats of wax on it every season. And I just try to treat it as best I possibly can. I don't let dirt and sand and things like that pile up on the paint. Snow tires. I've only run Blizzaks on this, so that's all I can really tell you about. I wish I knew a little bit more about other snow tires, but I've had an enormous amount of success with those. They seem to grip right when I need them, and they look pretty good too. Yeah, so this is an all-wheel drive Porsche. It's not full-time, like 50-50 split. I believe it's actually like 95-5 split, and with the ability to send 40% of the power to the front wheels if they start slipping. We don't usually get into those kind of situations unless we're out trying to have some fun. But, you know, the Yakima Tent, I wasn't really knowledgeable on rooftop tents when I went shopping for them, and this kind of happened spur of the moment. But what I found is, one, I love the fact that Yakima is a local company for me. I love to support the local business. From a quality standpoint, I think it's on the upper end of things. I know a lot of tent manufacturers probably come from the same facilities, but what I have noticed that I appreciate the most is the quality of service that Yakima gives me. They've been able to, I tore the cover on it myself, and they were happily able to replace that. That made me really good. So I think quality is pretty common or pretty even across the board with most manufacturers, but what you get with Yakima and what I've gotten with Yakima is just really good customer service. So did I paint my taillights? No, I didn't. What I did do is I bought some automotive grade tinted vinyl and basically just wrapped the taillights in the vinyl and then used an X-Acto knife to cut out around them, and that gave the car probably, in my opinion, its entirely best feature, which is the long red bar across the rear end. So the car is significantly lower than stock height. It's running on H&R Sport springs, so it's down almost, I think, a little over an inch. But how I deal with potholes and bumps off-road, just kind of send it. No, but seriously, I usually walk the roads that I go down a ways before I go down them, make sure there's nothing that I can't get over and creep over. I've definitely had some panic moments where I smacked the oil pan on a rock or something like that. Other than that, you guys will maybe see here in a second, this is my skid plate. It's all my Oregon license plate definitely takes a beating with the places that we go.